Tvaya hritva vamam vapura paritruktena manasa sharirardham shambhoho aparamapi shanke hritamabhut yadetadvad rupam sakalamarunabham trinayanam Kuchabhyam anamram kutila shashi chudalam suchudalam makutam. So the 23rd verse, if you notice, if you're able to follow the verse itself, you will understand it is about Ardhanarishwara form of Devi. So the form that represents the aspect of Devi as Ardhanarishwara, which means she is the one which is the static and she is the one which is the dynamic. She is the potential and she is the kinetic, both in this form. Which means I keep saying she is because in this context of Saundarya Lahari, we are talking about the whole feminine aspect of the divine, feminine aspect of this supreme consciousness that we are seeking, supreme consciousness that we are trying to connect to within us. Where in Saundarya Lahari, it is referred to as a Devi or as a lady, although it does not have any gender. Right? This we keep talking time and again. We have to remember, because language is limited. The best way to go about is saying it. Right? Napunsakalinga, it. Tat. In Tattvamasi, in the Mahavakya, you see, Brahman is referred to as Tat, a neuter gender. Because you can't, the moment you say he in Purusha Suktam, Saha, then people will say why God is only a he. When he says she, Shri Suktam, then everybody will say why God is only a she. So it's all about, because our minds are confused and convoluted with gender. So and I know I'm repeating myself because it's important to recognize this again and again. We have to remind ourselves. Devi is not female. Devi is the feminine aspect within us. Right? How much ever in Navratri we celebrate, the ladies celebrate, the women celebrate, the men should equally celebrate, because understanding that Devi is an aspect which is within me. It is not female. It is not female. And that feminine aspect, I also carry that feminine aspect. As a male, I'm Ardhanarishwara. As a female, the lady is Ardhanarishwara. So as a gender, and which is why now you see there are several genders out there, right? The whole LGBTQ is a whole, there's a whole community that is trying to either identify themselves with a gender, or they are trying so hard to come out of this identification of gender and say that they are either this or that or both and things like that, right? Because our focus is only on a couple of organs in the body. The focus is only on those couple of organs in the body, then we keep seeing people in that domain. But when you are seeking spiritual understanding, we are going automatically, we are going beyond the body. The first layer that determines whether you're a male or a female, in the first vichara, in the one of the prakriyas in Vedanta is Drik Drishya Viveka. Drik is the one who's seeing, Drishya is that which is seen. And in that prakriya, the first thing that get dropped is the rupa. The rupa, which means that which you see, which means the body, including the sapta dhatus. The body that is dropped in the first instance or the first interrogation itself. So subsequent interrogations are all exactly the same between everybody. So the first interrogation that you do, I am the body, or rather, I am this is the body, this is drishya, I am the one who's seeing the body. Drik. Right? Then you go into the senses, then you go into the mind, the intellect, and so on and so forth, the panchakoshas, right? But the important aspect again is it's not female, it is not gender here, it is purely feminine. And how do you depict feminine aspect within us is shown as a female. Devi is shown as a female because that is how you show feminine aspects. But here he is breaking it down. Adi Shankara is breaking it down, saying Tvaya Hrutva Vamam Pari Vapura Paritriptena Manasa. So what have you done, O mother? You have slowly consumed the half of Shiva. Having taken over the left side of his body, your mind was not satisfied. And then you have taken the whole of Shambhu. Sharirardham Shambhoho aparamapi shanke hritamabhut. I doubt that that was sufficient for you. And then what did you do? You became Yade Tatvat Rupam, Sakalam Arunabham Trinayanam, Sakalam Arunabham Trinayanam, Uchabhyamanam, Kutila Shashi Chudala Makutam, which means you started consuming the half and then you consumed the whole. Which means this entity, whether it is appearing as Shiva or appearing as Shakti, Devi, the entity is one and the same. Right? So when we are propitiating, always we should always remember whether we're looking at Narayana and Lakshmi, also the same. They are not too different. This is displayed in that form because that's what we understand. See, the other day we spoke about this. If we were dogs, God will be a big bulldog. நம்ம எரும மாடா இருந்தோம்னா கடவுள் எரும மாடா இருப்பாரு, பெரிய எரும மாடா இருப்பாரு. He'll be a big buffalo. Because we are in the human form, God appears in this, we relate to that human form the most. And some people associate them being male, they will associate with the feminine form a lot. You will see a lot of Shakti Upasakas, Devi Upasakas are men. Many Devi Upasakas are men. At the same time, you will see many ladies who wear Rudraksha and are very dominant Shaivas, Shiva Upasakas. Likewise, Narayana, you will see many ladies, Krishna and Narayana. Right? So this association is there because there is something within us which is resonating with that frequency. So in the shloka, he is trying to show that Shambhu and Shakti and Devi are not too different. If you are seeing, if you are seeing Shiva, bring to your mind immediately that Shakti is there. It is like the two sides of a paper. This is what they say, right? In a two-dimensional frame, you cannot have one without the other. You can't say that, okay, rip off the other side of the paper. What? There's nothing really there to, then the paper doesn't exist in that shape and form. But it has to have two sides. So our perception is because what we see right in the front takes dominance. We don't see what is the other aspect. And this we should also continuously monitor within ourselves. When you see within ourselves, there are times when if you take Shiva as the aspect of complete silence and complete resolution, then we are like that sometimes. We are completely meditative. Imagine Shiva sitting in the crematorium, bhasmam all over his body, and in complete intoxicated meditation. We feel that sometimes, which means we want to be static. We want to be static sometimes. Then you look at Devi. She is activity. She is Rajas. So we want to be that sometimes. And so we exhibit both these qualities within us. So what is happening is when we invoke Devi, Tvaya Hritva Vamam Vapura Paritriptena Manasa, which means, oh mother, the world that I see, the whole world that I see is you. You have consumed the world. See, assume it's this way. There is a crystal, Spatika Lingam. There is a Spatika Lingam. You bring a red color cloth behind the Spatika Lingam. What do you see? You see a red lingam. Then you bring a blue cloth. You see a blue lingam. You bring a jyoti. You see the whole lingam is fire. So what happens? Slowly that color consumes the lingam. Right? So what is the color of the lingam? Because the lingam is colorless by virtue, it is viraga. Raga is color, viraga is no color. That is why Shiva is Vairaga. He is a Vairagi. He is known as a Vairagi or a Vairagi because he has no color of his own. And who gives him color? Devi. Shakti gives him color. And the color he mentions here. Sakala Arunabham. Aruna Abham. The beautiful red of the rising sun. So the color is given by Shakti. Now what does it mean to us? Which means when you see this world, you see activity, you see movement, you see noise, you see objects, you see time. Desha, Kala, Vastu. You see all of this. You see Desha, which means space. You see time. You see objects. All of these that you see is she coloring the universe. But what is she behind this colorful manifested universe? She is Shiva. She is Shambhu. She is the screen on which the movie is running. The movie is running, she is the screen. So it is like, as the screen, she is Shambhu. As the movie, she is Shakti. As the screen, she is Sadashiva. As the movie, she is Devi Parashakti. Now, how do you differentiate the two? Can you differentiate the movie and the screen? For the movie to run, you need a screen. Now, you can be with the screen alone. You don't need the movie. You don't need the movie. But it's nice to have the movie. There are experiences. So it's nice to have the movie. But can the screen be by itself? Yes, of course. And this is what Nasadiya Sukta says. The screen that existed had a stir. It is like, somebody asked, why, how did something come out of nothing? If you say all of this is Sadashiva, or if you say Narayana, who is the background of all of this activity, why is Narayana shown as resting on the Parkadal on a snake? Is because he is not activity. In that form, he is just stillness. He is stillness, calm stillness. But there is a stir. There is a stir that happens. That is kama, desire. So when that stir happens, then there is a form that appears. See, in space, when you notice, there are these thin films. There are experiments done on thin films where there is sound. When there is sound on a thin film which is static, what happens? You see ripples. you see movement. So when in that background, complete silence, when there is movement, you see that stir as form. And that form is Shakti. That is Devi. Where is that stir happening? It is happening in Shiva. It is happening in the stillness. It's not that the stir has happened separately elsewhere. The stir, the movement, the vibration, the spandana is happening on that surface. And when it happens, then you see form, right? Some form, some ripple, some shape, some circular, some kind of form that you see. That is the universe. That is the world. That is the manifested universe. And where is it? It is on the substratum. So which means that substratum is completely consumed. The potential, the activity or what is manifest on the outside is completely it's like saying
engulfed. Engulfed.
Yeah. Engulfed. It is completely, it's one. It's like, for example, if there's a beautiful, so in Vedanta, those who are familiar with this snake and rope example, it's usually said that in Vedanta, when you see something, there is a rope, but it's dark, there's not enough light, and suppose by the wind that rope is moving a little bit, you will mistake it for a snake. Correct? Now, suppose there is some light that comes, or you put a torch on it and you see, oh my God, is that a snake? Naturally, you put a torch. Immediately you see it's a rope. Right? Now then you're fine. So the knowledge that it is a rope has now, you acquired that knowledge that it is a rope, it is not a snake. Where is the snake? The snake was never there. It was in your imagination, in your manifestation, the snake was there. When you saw the rope, did you see the rope little by little? I'll say, oh, okay, this part is the rope. Maybe this is the snake. No. The moment you see some part of this thing, that object as a rope, you will say, okay, the whole thing is a rope. So in that way, the object that you're superimposing is completely taking over. And when you see something as a snake, when you see the rope as snake, do you see, oh, this head is a snake, but the tail may be a rope? We don't see like that, right? This is completely subsumed. So in that way, manifestation subsumes the substratum. And when this understanding comes,
but on the knowledge that it is a rope, the snake was a reality.
Snake was a reality. What I'm saying is, the reality, whether it's a snake or a rope, it's complete. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. It's complete.
It's not the bits and pieces.
It's not bits and pieces. It's
like
either a rope fully or a snake fully. So in that way, when Devi, the manifestation is available for us to experience, it's completely taken over the substratum. And when you are the knowledge that the substratum is there, this manifestation is all just a display of a movie or an illusion or some kind of my imagination, this whole thing. Then when the substratum is seen, then it's so blissful. None of this manifestation bothers you anymore. So that is why when realization happens, it's never little by little. When somebody is seeing the screen, the realization is complete. Right? So this is the relationship between that which is manifest and that which is behind as the substratum. So he goes to say, Tvaya Hrutva Vamam Vapura Paritriptena Manasa. So you started consuming him half, which means you are experiencing the Devi and the Shiva, you're experiencing the static and the dynamic. But then later you realize they're both completely interlaced. It's the dynamic is on the background of the static. Sharirardham Shambhoho aparamapi shanke hritamabhut yade tatvat rupam sakalam arunabham trinayanam. And you've now, so when they become together, then you have this third eye opened up, which means you become one. They come together, you become one, which means there is no more duality. Advaitam. Ardhanarishwara is essentially the concept of Advaitam. So when we see Ardhanarishwara, we see left side Devi and right side Shiva. It is a representation. There is no other way. The best way is actually I remember as very young, I've seen this particular statue in Safdarjung Museum. My mother had shown me. That statue, from front side, it will be a warrior. And you turn that statue around, it will be a beautiful lady. So it's essentially that. It's just that. And that's a very beautiful I feel that representation of Ardhanarishwara is very beautiful. But it's 3D. It's not 2D, right? So paper la vandu 2D you have to show left and right. That's a much better representation because one is completely subsuming the other. Right? Then where does these two appear as two is while you're in the bliss of the supreme consciousness and the complete samadhi, you can also enjoy if you're in the samadhi of Shiva, you can also enjoy the manifestation of Devi. While you're in the manifestation, you're caught up in the manifestation of Shiva, Shakti, Devi, see the Shiva that is also there along with it. Right? See through it. See through it. Either you see left or right, but the important thing is that is a pictorial representation. But when you see it in the world, see through it. See that through all of this manifestation variety that is there, that is a single consciousness that is shining. It is Arunabham, Abham. Abha is the splendor, the shine. So when you see that it's like, when you stand behind, there is a light and you stand, how you see that whole glow. So when you see the object, see the light behind it. Kuchabhyam anamram, kutila shashi chudala makutam. He's saying that you're red in color, slightly bent by the weight of your breasts, having 3 eyes and the crescent moon. So here he is showing how Devi and Shiva are one and the same. So in this form, Devi, the breasts are there, which means you're a nourishing mother. And you're also having the crescent moon, which is essentially the indication of enlightenment. The crescent moon is a symbol of enlightenment, realization. So you've got the highest understanding of enlightenment. You also have the care and nurture of a mother. And you have 3 eyes, which means you are able to see the world of Dvaya, but at the same time, you also have the third eye of Advaitam, which means you see, but yet you're able to see through. There are some people, when you notice, you'll say that, when I looked at the person, he almost looked through me or looked into me. And on my experiences, people will say, which means you're able to actually, you're not fooled by the layer that is just visible with the 2 eyes. You have now come to an understanding that you can see through, and that is the representation of the third eye. Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukum vandhanan mrityor mukshiya mamritat. Once you're able to mrityor mukshiya mamritat, from mrityu you get moksha. Not from mrityu necessarily, you get moksha from the fear of mrityu when your eye becomes one. Bible, there is a very, very popular line. It says, when thine eye becomes one, your body becomes full of light. When your eye becomes one, which means your third eye is opened, which means your eye of cognition, intuitive cognition is opened up, then you are full of light and joy. You are full of light means you become light. You don't see this world as a burden. You don't see life as a burden. Right? So if you're able to see Devi, when we pray to Devi in whatever form we do, Lalita Sahasranama, we do Archana, we see this both, that Mother, you are creating this whole Lalita Tripura Sundari, you're just playing with this whole thing. But behind you, you are creating this, and you're also showing me the way to come through this and see that silence that is there behind you, which is shining within. Right? So, Tvaya Hritva Vamam Vapura Parithriptena Manasa Sharirardham Shambhoho Aparamapi Shanke Hritamabhut Yate Tadvadrupam Sakala Marunabham Trinayanam Jabhyam Anamram Kutila Shashi Chudala Makutam. Go to the next one. I'll just pause the recording here for a moment. Okay. So the meaning of this one, Jagat Sute Dhata Hariravati Rudraha Kshapayate Tiraskurvan Etat Swamapi Vapurishas Tirayati Sada Purvas Sarvam Tadidam Anugrhnati Cha Shivaha Tavagnyam Alambya Kshanachalitayor Bhrulatika Yoga. So if you look at it, there seems to be a connection between the previous one and this one, 23rd and the 24th. 23rd shows how both of them are together. It's just an aspect of the same reality. See, it's very simple to also think of this aspect in this way, right? A very colloquial example. Now, for your child, you're a mother. For your husband, you're a wife. For the father, you're a daughter. Right? So there are three different aspects. But are you three different people? You're the same. You're the same person. It is just that you are exposing different aspects within you depending on what is the demand on the outside. So in the same way, in fact, one of the ways of looking at why we have so many deities in the Hindu pantheon of gods, so many deities, is essentially this idea. If I, as an individual, how many roles can you play? Imagine. It's almost infinite, right? It's almost infinite, the amount of roles that we can play. Almost, I'm saying, because we have our limitations, but it almost seems like, for example, with my friends, there is a certain aspect that I display. With my family, I display a certain aspect. With at my workplace, a certain aspect. In the community where I serve, a different aspect. Even within the family, each individual, different aspect. Correct? In the office place, different aspect. It's not a singular aspect to everybody in the office place. To my boss, something. To my peer, something. To my subordinates, something. To somebody else in the organization altogether, something else. So it's almost, it seems like, how many can you count? So literally every individual you come in life across, you show a certain aspect of yourself. It almost seems like almost infinite. Now we're not talking about and we are an aspect of creation. We are just an aspect of creation, and within us there are so many aspects. Now the creator, imagine the creator, or that the entity from which this whole creation has come. How many aspects can it have? Infinite, right? So when somebody is reaching out to that truth as, oh mother, she comes as a mother. Reaches out saying, oh friend, he will come as a friend. If you reach out as a child, she'll come as a bala. You come to reach out to her as a protector, she'll come as Kali. All of these are there, right? So why is it difficult for us to understand that there's so many forms and so many deities? They are not different. They represent the same truth, different aspects depending on how we are reaching them, what we are demanding of them. Right? If the vegetable seller comes to me, I am the buyer, he is the seller. So he is demanding a buyer aspect from me. So my buyer aspect will come. At the same time, I go elsewhere, I am selling something, somebody else is buying, my seller aspect will come there. Depending on my interactions with the world, what is demanded of me, that aspect I show. In the same way, the supreme reality will show so many different aspects depending on what is demanded of it. Correct? So, how does it work? It works like in the previous Nama we saw, in the previous verse we saw. The substratum is there, which is silence, which is complete stillness, no movement. You give it whatever name, Shambhu, Shiva, Sadashiva, Narayana, whatever name you give. And then you have Shakti, Devi, presenting herself. Both are the same reality. One is complete silence and stillness. One is activity and display and manifestation. Okay. How does it work? It works the way it is mentioned here. Jagat Sute Dhata Hari Ravati Rudraha Kshapayate. Jagat Sute Dhata. Who is that? Jagat Suta is who? Jagat Sute Dhata is the one who gives rise to this world. Brahma. Harihi Avati. Hari protects. Avatvamam. We've seen this word. Ava. Ava means to protect. Ganesha Atharva Shirsha. Avati. Harihi Avati. He protects. Hari protects. Rudraha Kshapayate. In the form of Rudra, you destroy. So in the form of Brahma, Dhata, in the form of Dhata, you are the Jagat Suta. You are the one from whom world is born. As Hari, you protect. As Rudra, you destroy. And then as Tiraskurvan. So there are two other aspects of, or two other functions that's mentioned also in Lalita Sahasranamam. Srishtikartri Brahmarupa Goptri Govindarupini Samharini Rudrarupa Tirodhana Karishwari Sadashiva Anugrahada. Srishtikartri Brahmarupa Goptri Govindarupini Samharini Rudrarupa Tirodhana Karishwari Sadashiva Anugrahada. 5 functions. Panchakritya Parayana. So she is one who does these 5 functions. So we know the 3 functions: creation, sustenance, and destruction. There are 2 other functions. One is called Tirodhanam. Tirodhanam means to withdraw. Tirodhanam means to veil. Tirodhanam also is, you can mention Tirodhanam as Tirodhanam is Avarana. Avarana means Tirodhana. Anugraha is grace. To remove the veil is Anugraha. So Tirodhana, you can also call it as Maya, or Maya essentially means you don't see things the way they are. It doesn't mean that it is not there. See, this is the subtle difference between Advaita and Vishishta Advaita. And we should try to collapse that difference. Right? As spiritual seekers, we should not go with the differences in these philosophies. We should look at these commonalities amongst them. That's very important. Otherwise, we'll be forever in, he's an Advaitin, he's a Vishishta Advaitin, he's a Dvaitin, he's a Christian, he's an Islami, he's a this thing, that thing. If we keep looking at differences between philosophies, we will be split. Or we will become exclusive. if you want to become inclusive, see the commonalities across all philosophies. Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Taoism. There are commonalities across all these philosophies because everybody is what they have tried to do. They have tried to seek the ultimate. So Tirodhana is that sense, it is Maya. Maya means not that everything is an illusion. Maya means it is not the way that you perceive it. Truth is not the way that you perceive it as. That is Tirodhanam. So there is a concealing. And then Anugraha is to reveal the truth. So these are the 5 functions that she plays. Tiraskurvan means withdrawing all this. Swayam api vapuhu Ishaha tirayati. So which means you withdraw all of these 3 within you and you create a veil. Tiraskurvan etat sarvam swayam api vapuhu ishastirayati. And then what happens? You are also the one sadapurva sarvam tad idam anugrhanati cha shivaha. In the form of Shivaha, you are the one, or the Sadashiva, you are the one who gives anugraha. Sadashiva anugrahada. In Lalita Tripura Sundari, in the image, I know that Shweta is here. Shweta's house, Shweta is here. Her house has a very beautiful Lalita Tripura Sundari, periya frame on her. Beautiful. You come into the hall, come into the house and then go in. Very beautiful Lalita Tripura Sundari. You will see the Panchakritya are the seat on which she is sitting. The 4 legs are the 4 functions. Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Tirodhana. And then Sadashiva is the carpet on which she sits. She sits on Sadashiva. So this symbolism is this. The symbolism shows that she or this particular there is these 5 functions that keep constantly happening. How does it happen? It happens from the space of silence. So it keeps happening constantly. And it says, Tava Agnyam Alambya, by your order, O mother, Kshana Chalita Yoho, Bhrulatika Yoho, just by the movement of your eyebrows. Kshana Chalita Yoho. A little bit, and the Kshana, or Kshanathala, and then he atra kangal, Kana Saivanala, and the light on the movement. Shiva, if she's there, she'll show it in the. She's a dancer. So that a little bit of a movement of the eyebrow, you can send out an instruction, and all of these happen. So this is, and so they see the beauty is, and I've seen this when you're in the presence of a master, then they don't have necessarily always give instructions verbally. Kannala light adi papa. That's all they'll do. Adi light, they'll just show a little bit of Kshana Chalita Yoho, a little bit of movement, and then taka 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 naga vishangal nadakum. He didn't do much. All he did was move the eyebrow. But things happened. It says, Devi, that is the way you are also. You are sitting there. You are not doing anything. Chumma ukandrugani. Your kanna asaivala Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Rudra, Isha, everybody, they run around and jump around and do everything that they do. So that this is your function. This is how you, how you work as this whole process that comes out and you absorb back within you. Now, this is very important for us as a process or a prakriya that happens within us also. Right now, we are awake. I'm assuming. Now, several of them are not on video, so it's hard to say. நீங்க சொன்னது அவ்வளவு அழகா இருக்கா, அப்படியே தூங்கிட்டேன்னு சொல்லாம சொல்லுவான்.
தியானத்துல போயிட்டோம்.
தியானத்துல போயிட்டேன். So right now we are in the Jagrat state, which is the waking state. Then when we go to sleep, usually we hit in, if you are very exhausted and tired, we usually slip into deep sleep. From there, we usually come back to the dream state. This is usually the process. The way it happens is from Jagrat, when you go and sleep, the mind is working, and then you drop into the deep sleep. You'll notice this. If you notice it carefully enough, you'll drop into the deep sleep, and from there you will come to the Swapna Avastha. Usually it's never from Jagrat you go to Swapna and then Sushupti. It's not like that. You drop into Sushupti, and from there you'll slowly come to Swapna Avastha. You will relax there for or whatever you'll create, do all that nonsense that we do, and then we again go into the Sushupti, and we are there in Sushupti for some while. Now what happens is, from Jagrat, assuming the sequence is Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. Okay, so from Jagrat, you're going into Swapna, where from this world, you go into another world where you create your own world. You create another world and you live there. You live there, you experience everything there in the other world, in the Swapna Avastha. Then from there, you go into the Sushupti, which is complete silence and stillness. Now, in the Jagrat, my body is there, my mind is there, my intellect is there. When I go into the Swapna, my mind and intellect are there, but my body is not there. I don't have the sense of my body. That is why I create a whole new world where I create a new body, I create everything. I create people, trees, my palaces, whatever. I create buildings, trains, cars, everything I create. And from there, I go into Sushupti, where Sushupti, body, mind, intellect, none of that is there. There is only silence. This is the absorption that happens within us every day. From Vyakta or manifest, we go into Avyakta, unmanifest. We dissolve into ourselves. Right? And when we dissolve into ourselves, we don't know. We are not aware of the dissolution. We are dissolved there. We are in Tiraskurvan. We are in Tirodhana. In the withdrawal state. We are completely there. And then when there is Anugraha, again we wake up. Due to Anugraha, we wake up and we come out. And this process happens within us every day. Right? This process happens within us every day. We are in the waking, we go into the dream, then we go into the deep sleep. From there again we wake up. The problem is just that we only remember and we only focus on the waking. We don't study our dream and the deep sleep. What our scriptures do is they show us a path. If you study that, then they say you will understand some aspect of your true nature. True nature is reflected in your deep sleep. I am this, I am that. None of that is there in deep sleep. And in dream also, that I am this, I am that is a very different I am this, I am that. It's not this person. It's entirely somebody else there. But in deep sleep, none of that exists. So you're completely withdrawn. And you come out blissful, right? From deep sleep, we always come out saying that I had a good deep sleep. Nobody in the world says that I had a bad deep sleep, which means you didn't sleep. You can say I had a bad sleep, which means you didn't go into deep sleep. But if you go into deep sleep, it's complete. It's only good, because you always and every night we want to go there. We want to forget ourselves every night. But during the day, we don't want to do that. I want to remind myself my individuality. I am this, I am that. And the aham. During the day, we keep establishing that. But at night, we all want to drop the aham because it's such a burden. It's such a burden. We want to drop the aham and we want to fall into nothingness. Every night we want to fall into nothingness, right? What is realization is if we bring that understanding into our daily waking state. In the waking state, we try to, of course, Nariya Pera waking state light நான் நத்திங்க்கு போயிட்டு வந்துட்டேன் அப்படின்னு இப்போதான் கொஞ்ச நேரம் முன்னாடி போயிட்டு வந்தேன் சார். மீட்டிங்ல எல்லாம் பிரமாதமா நடக்கும். கலீக் ஹியர் nicely he will go like that in a meeting. Consciously, this is unconscious dropping into sleep. We're talking about consciously going into ourselves where we drop the aham, we drop the I, we drop the identity, individual identity, we drop it. And we stay there. We see the joy. We try to bring the joy that we have experienced in deep sleep unconsciously. We try to bring it here consciously. Okay? So this process, Adi Shankara is saying, Jagat Sute Dhata Hariravati Rudraha Kshapayate Tiraskurvan Etat Swamapi Vapurishas Tirayati Sadapurvas Sarvam Tadidam Anugrhnati Chashivaha Tavagnyam Alambya Kshanacharitayor Bhrulatikayo. Just by your brow, movement of your brow, oh mother, you are able to do all these 5 functions: creation, sustenance, destruction, tirodhanam, which is concealing, and anugraha, which is revealing. You do all of this and you continue to do this perpetually. Sada purvaha sarvam. Continuously you do this. And so may we recognize this within us. We seem to think we are permanent. As an identity, we seem to think we are permanent. But no, we keep going through these changes constantly, right? When you see changes close enough, you will recognize that there is something that is unchanging. The problem is we are trying to hold on to change. If you notice the change close enough, you will notice that this substrate and the Shivaha that is there, or Shakti that is there, that is constantly there. During Navratri, you all saw this Varahi Amma, and Anjali had created a video of, it is like a snap video, like 30 seconds or 20 seconds video, which showed snaps of her every day. Every day she put her draped a different sari on Ambal. So every day there is a different sari. So when I actually saw that video, it was snipping through different videos, so different snaps, right? Today this blue color sari, tomorrow the next day was yellow, the next day was green, the next day was violet, purple. So it went like that. And she said, Appa, why don't you give a line or a quote to put, because she wanted to put it on Insta or somewhere. So I said, the moment I saw that, the thing that occurred to me is, we focus the changing sari colors. We miss seeing that one that is there, which is not changing through the whole change. Right? That is so beautiful, right? If you focus on her eyes, and you see her form, this change is always there throughout all the 9 days, 10 days. Everything has been changing. People coming, different sundal we ate, different things we had. All of that is, but she remained as it is. Nothing changed. That didn't change. That principle doesn't change. It's always there. And so Bhagavan Adi Shankara is bringing our attention to that. Whether as Ardhanarishwara you see her, or somebody who is this whole creative sustenance destruction principle that is there, she remains as this eternal presence. Okay. So may Devi, that eternal presence, be within us and remind us of her presence.
இந்த சுஷுப்தி அவஸ்தை வந்து ஜாகிரத அவஸ்தாவில் வரணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம். But isn't it very difficult to do that?
Of course it is. It is very difficult. It is extremely difficult to, because we don't know what that is.
Exactly.
We don't understand what that is. But the experience of it somewhere stays within us. There is this joy. So it is a way of telling ourselves that I do experience this joy within me. Nobody has to point out this joy. I do. Do I experience or not? It is a truth for me.
To experience something, your mind has to work, yeah, to experience something.
Yes. Yes.
So, in Sushupti Avastha, you say the mind is still working.
There is no mind is not, but something is recording the event. Something is recording.
There's no recording. There's only a witness.
It is a witness, but the witness continues, and there is some. It is not the same manas that is there in the waking state, but there is something as an experience. It is recorded it, and it tells me during the waking state that I slept well. Who is this individual who's telling I slept well?
Correct. Correct.
It is there. See, I'm saying yes, the mind is gone, but there is something that is witnessing, like you said. There is something that is witnessing, and that witness is carrying forward that impression. That impression is carried forward to my waking. And in my waking, when I know that there is this impression that is carrying forward of the sleep, deep sleep, now I say, which means it was me only, right? Who slept? Was it somebody else? No, I slept, I woke up, and I have this experience of having slept well. I have this experience of having slept well. Now what I do, I use the mind because I know somewhere it is captured. It is captured somewhere. I don't know where exactly. So what I do, I use the mind now to go into myself in search of that peace and silence that I experienced. And mind is the only tool I have.
And the Sushupti Avastha experience only at the time of my waking I am able to realize.
Correct. That is because, absolutely right. Because at the time of deep sleep itself, we don't recognize, because there is what is called as ajnana or ignorance. Ignorance is there in deep sleep. If I would have realized in deep sleep, then I would have been a realized person. Every night I go there, but I don't realize because there is ajnana or ignorance there. But when I get up, now I use my mind. There's a beautiful example that Ramana Maharshi says. Somebody said, you keep telling you have to get rid of the mind, or mind is the cause of the problem and all that. He said, see, mind is the troublemaker, but then the only tool that is available for us, mind is the only tool that is available for you. That's the only tool that's available. So he gives an example of, you have a fire, you have a dead body that needs to be burnt. When you put the dead body on the log of wood, you burn it. What do you use to prod and make sure it burns well? You use a log. Correct? Or kattaya vechindada, you keep poking and making sure that it burns well. You put the fuel and all that.
Yeah.
Now, when the body is burnt completely, and it's or burning or about to almost burn, what do? This log of wood, you throw it into that. And the log of wood also burns along with the body. So he says, mind is that log of wood. You have to use this mind. Is the only tool that's available. You use the mind to burn everything else, and finally you dissolve the mind also. I can't say I'll not have a log of wood. I need it because I need to burn everything else. So I use this as a tool to burn everything else. And then finally I burn that also. But that happens on its own. It will happen on its own. Our attempt now is use the mind as a tool in the right direction. I cannot dissolve the mind, but I use the mind in the right direction so that it dissolves on its own. We cannot dissolve the mind. The mind has to dissolve on its own. Swayameva, it has to dissolve. That is the only way for it to dissolve. I cannot sit today I'm going to dissolve my mind. It will not happen. It will only create more and more vrittis and ripples, and it will create more disturbances. The only way is silence the mind, slowly it will dissolve. Slowly it will dissolve.
So that means we need to simulate that condition. And the simulate on the first condition on the silence.
Correct.
So that's what. So you and the senses are all shut off.
Correct.
Yeah.
Withdrawn.
So what we do is in the dhyana, we have to simulate all this
Correct.
Make sure that your senses are off
Yes.
and you are calm and quiet.
Correct.
Yeah, and the similar பண்ணும்போது you say that you will experience that, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Thinking that we'll be in the awake state.
Yes, we will experience that. And the thinking of the deep sleep is an assertion that it's possible to go there. It is an assertion when you look back to say it is possible to go into that state. It's not impossible for me to do. Like my Gurudev Paramahansa Yogananda says, everybody is God at night. The devil comes out only when we wake up. So we can go back to that God, that assertion to tell ourselves it's possible. It's not distant for me, it's possible. And then we go in that direction to head in that way. Nice. Very nice.
Baba, thanks.
कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सदाशिवायेति समर्पयामि जगदम्बिकायै समर्पयामि सद्गुरुनाथायेति समर्पयामि हरि ओम तत्सद्गुरुभ्यो हरि ओम गुरुदेवा हरि ओम. Thank you very much.